Ambassador Jin stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately felt the weight of alien eyes upon him. The NIGMA homeworld stretched before him like a nightmare made of crystal and shadows. Massive towers twisted up into the purple sky, their surfaces gleaming with an inner light that hurt to look at directly. Everything here was built for creatures 3 times his size, making him feel like a child wandering through a giant's palace. His escort, a lower-ranking NIGMA warrior, clicked, its mandibles impatiently. "Move faster, small thing. The High Council grows tired of waiting for your kind." Jin kept his face calm, though his heart was pounding. 6 months of preparation had led to this moment. 6 months since the NIGMA had started kidnapping humans from the outer colonies, dragging them away to work in their deep space mines. The images from those places still haunted him, humans working in impossible conditions, their minds broken by NIGMA psychic control. The council chamber doors opened, with a sound like breaking glass. Inside, the air itself seemed to vibrate with mental energy. Jin had trained for this, learned to recognize the feeling of psychic pressure, but experiencing it firsthand was different. It was like having someone constantly whisper threats in your ear while ice water ran down your spine. 7 NIGMA rulers sat on crystalline thrones arranged in a circle around the chamber floor. Each one was massive, their insect-like bodies covered in chitinous armor that reflected the chamber's eerie light. Their eyes, dozens of them on each head, tracked Jin's movement as he walked to the center of the room. Emperor Vex Thul was the largest, sitting on a throne carved from a single black crystal. When he spoke, his voice came from inside Jin's head rather than his ears. "So the meat creatures send a messenger. How amusing." Jin bowed slightly, just enough to show respect without appearing weak. "Honored Council, I come bearing humanity's final offer of peace." The sound that filled the chamber was like breaking glass mixed with insect chittering, NIGMA laughter. "Peace?" Vex Thul's mental voice dripped with contempt. "Your species makes excellent workers, strong backs, clever hands, and minds simple enough to break easily. Why would we give up such valuable resources?" "Because," Jin said, his voice steady, despite the psychic pressure crushing down on him, "we're asking nicely. This is your chance to avoid what comes next." More laughter echoed through the chamber. One of the other council members, her carapace decorated with the skulls of conquered species, leaned forward. "Are you threatening us, little mammal? Do you know how many worlds we have conquered? How many species have knelt before NIGMA might?" Jin reached into his diplomatic pouch slowly, making sure his movements were visible to all the council members. He pulled out a small metal device no bigger than his palm and placed it carefully on the chamber floor. The device hummed to life, projecting a 3-dimensional image into the air above it. The hologram showed Admiral Na standing on the bridge of humanity's flagship. Even as a projection, her presence filled the chamber with quiet authority. Her uniform was crisp, her expression calm, and her eyes held the kind of steel that came from someone who had seen war and was prepared for more. "Honored NIGMA Council," the hologram spoke, Na's voice clear and steady. "You have 72 hours to withdraw from all human territories and release our people. After that time, we will consider your empire to be in a state of active war with humanity. Choose wisely." The projection faded, leaving the chamber in heavy silence. Jin could feel the NIGMA ruler's psychic energy shifting, becoming more aggressive, more dangerous. Vex Thul's eyes focused on Jin like laser beams. "Your admiral speaks boldly for a species that barely qualifies as spacefaring. We have destroyed civilizations that had mastered technologies your kind cannot even imagine." "Perhaps," Jin replied, "but they weren't human." That was when Vex Thul struck. The psychic attack hit Jin like a physical blow, designed to crush his mind and leave him a babbling shell. This was how the NIGMA had broken every other species they had encountered, with raw mental force that turned proud warriors into mindless slaves. Jin felt the attack wash over him like cold water, then fade away without leaving so much as a headache. He smiled, watching the shock ripple through the council chamber. "Impossible," Vex Thul hissed, his mental voice losing its composed tone. "No species is immune to our mind touch. We have tested this on thousands of races." "You've never tested it on humans," Jin said calmly. He activated the recall beacon clipped to his belt, feeling the familiar tingle of the teleporter beginning to lock onto his signal. We tried to warn you politely. We offered you a peaceful solution, but you chose to see us as cattle instead of people. The air around Jin began to shimmer as the teleporter engaged. His last words echoed through the chamber as his form began to fade. Now you'll learn why humans don't make idle threats. The moment Jin vanished, Vexthul rose from his throne, his massive form trembling with rage. Summon the war fleets, all of them. These upstart mammals will burn for their insolence. Within hours, the largest military force in NIGMA history was heading toward Earth, confident that this newest species would join the long list of civilizations that had fallen before their might. They had no idea that they were flying toward the greatest mistake their empire would ever make. Fleet Admiral Kothak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the blue-green planet grow larger on his view screen. Around him, his officers moved with practiced efficiency, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming under the ship's harsh lighting. The NIGMA warfleet stretched out in all directions, over 2,000 vessels of destruction that had brought entire civilizations to their knees. Status report, Kothak commanded through the psychic link that connected all NIGMA minds. All battle groups in position, Fleet Admiral, his tactical officer responded mentally. Long-range scans confirm human defensive positions. They have approximately 300 ships scattered throughout their system. Most appear to be converted civilian vessels. Kothak's mandibles clicked in amusement. 300 ships against 2,000. It would barely qualify as target practice. Any signs of advanced weaponry, quantum torpedoes, plasma lance arrays? Negative, sir. Their technology appears primitive. Kinetic weapons, basic energy beams, chemical propulsion systems. Some of their ships still appear to be using fusion reactors instead of antimatter cores. Fascinating, Kothak mused. How did such a backward species even achieve interstellar travel? No matter. Begin the advance. Standard intimidation formation. Perhaps they will surrender once they see the futility of resistance. What Kothak couldn't see were the thousands of modifications humans had made throughout their solar system over the past 6 months. Hidden behind asteroids, camouflaged against the dark side of moons, and drifting silent in the cold void, were surprises that no NIGMA tactician could have predicted. Captain Mi floated weightless on the bridge of her destroyer, watching the alien fleet approach through her ship's passive sensors. The Soul's Pride had been a cargo hauler just 8 months ago, but human engineers had worked miracles. Her ship now bristled with weapons cobbled together from mining equipment, industrial tools, and pure human stubbornness. Captain, her communications officer whispered, "Admiral Na is broadcasting on the command frequency." Mai activated her headset and heard the calm, steady voice of humanity's fleet commander. "All ships, this is Admiral Na. Today we face an enemy that has conquered 47 worlds. They expect us to fight like every other species they've encountered. They expect conventional tactics, predictable strategies, and logical responses." Mi smiled, checking her weapon systems one more time. Every indicator glowed green. "But we're not every other species," Na continued. "We're human, and humans have never been accused of being logical. Show them what chaos looks like. Show them what happens when you threaten our families. All ships, weapons free. Let's give these bugs a warm welcome to our neighborhood." The first NIGMA battle group advanced toward Earth in perfect formation, their ships arranged in the classical attack pattern that had broken the defenses of dozens of worlds. Kothak watched with satisfaction as his vessels moved forward, their weapons charging for the opening bombardment that would shatter human morale. That's when the asteroid started shooting back. "What in the void?" Kotak's sensor operator's mental voice cracked with confusion. "Sir, we're detecting weapons fire from asteroid belt coordinates, but there's nothing there except rocks." "Impossible," Kothak snapped. "Asteroids don't have weapons." "These ones do, sir." The truth was worse than Kothak could have imagined. Humans had spent months hollowing out asteroids, turning them into massive gun platforms that looked like harmless space rocks. Suddenly, chunks of stone and metal that had been ignored by NIGMA scanners were unleashing devastating crossfire into the advancing fleet. Lieutenant Ho sat in the cramped cockpit of his fighter, watching a NIGMA cruiser lumber past his hiding spot. The massive ship was beautiful in a terrifying way, its hull covered in weapon ports and sensor arrays that could track a mosquito from 1,000 kilometers away. Unfortunately for the NIGMA, they weren't looking for something as crazy as what Hers was about to attempt. "Control, this is Lightning 7, he whispered into his comm. "I have a clear shot at the cruiser's exhaust manifold." "Negative, Lightning 7, came the reply. "That's a suicide run. No fighter has ever successfully penetrated a NIGMA cruiser's point defense grid." "Good thing I'm not trying to penetrate it," Ho replied, pushing his throttle forward. "I'm trying to thread it." Ho's fighter screamed toward the massive cruiser, its engines pushed far beyond safe limits. NIGMA point defense weapons swiveled to track him, filling space with deadly energy beams that could vaporize his tiny ship with a single hit. But Ho wasn't flying in a straight line. He was flying like a maniac. His fighter corkscrewed between energy beams, rolled under particle cannon fire, and somehow slipped through defensive patterns that should have been impossible to breach. The NIGMA gunners had never encountered a pilot who flew like he was trying to crash rather than survive. "Impossible trajectory," the cruiser's tactical officer reported to his captain. "The human pilot appears to be deliberately flying toward our engine exhaust port. Shoot him down," the captain ordered. But it was too late. Ho's fighter, damaged and trailing smoke, disappeared into the cruiser's massive engine intake. Seconds later, he ejected, his escape pod shooting clear just as his fighter's overloaded reactor detonated inside the NIGMA ship's most vulnerable point. The explosion tore through the cruiser's engine compartments, crippling the massive vessel, and sending it tumbling out of formation. "These humans fight like madmen," Kothak's lieutenant reported, his psychic voice trembling with something that might have been fear. But the real shock came when the NIGMA tried to use their greatest weapon, their psychic domination abilities. Throughout the battle, NIGMA psychic specialists attempted to crush human minds, to turn the defenders into mindless slaves, as they had done to countless other species. Instead, they encountered something that broke their understanding of how minds worked. Human thoughts were chaos, emotions, memories, dreams, fears, and hopes all tangled together in patterns that made no sense. Worse, human creativity seemed to actively fight back against psychic intrusion, generating mental static that overwhelmed NIGMA telepaths. Sensor operator Sue watched her instruments with amazement as another wave of psychic attacks washed harmlessly over the human fleet. "Captain Me, they're trying to mind control us again. It's not working." Captain Me laughed, a sound that would have terrified the NIGMA if they could have heard it. "Tell Admiral Na that Dr. Wu's anti-psychic training is working perfectly. These bugs have no idea what they're dealing with." Admiral Na received the report with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 was complete. The NIGMA had revealed their capabilities and found their greatest weapons useless against human unpredictability. Now it was time to show them what humans could really do. "All ships," she broadcast, "execute Phase 2. Time to take this fight to them." Dr. Wu rubbed his tired eyes and took another sip of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. His makeshift laboratory aboard the human command ship buzzed with activity as technicians worked around the clock to decode alien technology. Outside the reinforced windows, explosions lit up the darkness of space as the battle continued to rage. "Doctor, are you seeing this?" called out his assistant researcher Park from across the lab. "The neural interface patterns are completely different from what we expected." Wu hurried over to Park's workstation, where holographic displays showed the inner workings of captured NIGMA psychic amplifiers. The technology was beautiful in its complexity, but also revealed something disturbing about how the NIGMA had built their empire. "These devices aren't just communication tools," Wu muttered, studying the data streams. "They're designed to rewrite brain patterns. No wonder every species they've encountered becomes their slaves." Park nodded grimly. "But look at what happens when they try to use it on recorded human brain scans." She activated a simulation that showed NIGMA psychic energy hitting a human mind pattern. Instead of the clean domination they expected, the energy scattered and dissipated like water hitting a brick wall. "It's not just that our minds are chaotic," Wu realized, his excitement growing. "We've been unconsciously training ourselves to resist psychic intrusion for months. Every meditation session, every mental exercise we've been doing since the Colonies went silent. It wasn't random preparation. It was building natural defenses. He activated his communicator and reached Admiral Na on the bridge. "Admiral, I've got the answer. The NIGMA can't control us because we've essentially made ourselves immune to their psychic attacks. Our minds have developed natural barriers." Na's voice crackled through the speaker. "How is that possible, Doctor?" "Remember the mental conditioning program we started after the first abductions, the one where we taught colonists to maintain their identity under stress. We didn't know it at the time, but we were accidentally creating the perfect defense against NIGMA mind control." 3 decks. Below, Commander Jun was having his own breakthrough in the engineering section. Scattered across multiple workbenches were pieces of NIGMA technology that his team had salvaged from destroyed scout ships months earlier. What had started as an attempt to understand alien technology had turned into something far more impressive. The NIGMA build their jump drives for efficiency, Jun explained to his team of engineers. Every component is perfectly optimized, perfectly calibrated, but they never considered that sometimes imperfection can be an advantage. Engineer Lee looked up from her workstation, where she was installing human modifications into a captured NIGMA jump core. "You mean our messy human engineering actually makes things better?" "Exactly," Jun grinned. "Their drives can jump precisely to predetermined coordinates. Ours can improvise. We can jump to places we've never been, calculate routes in real time, and even jump multiple times in rapid succession. Their perfect efficiency becomes a limitation when they face something as unpredictable as human innovation." Jun's communicator chirped with an incoming message from the bridge. "Commander, this is Admiral Na. How soon can you have the new jump drives installed fleet-wide?" "Already done, Admiral," Jun replied proudly. "Every ship in the fleet now has hybrid human NIGMA jump capability. We can be anywhere in the system in minutes, and the NIGMA will never see us coming." Meanwhile, aboard a crippled NIGMA battleship, Sergeant Day was proving that human ingenuity worked just as well in close combat as it did in engineering. His assault team had breached the enemy ship's hull, using nothing more than industrial cutting tools and determination. "Remember," Day whispered to his team as they moved through the alien corridors, "these ships are built for psychic communication. They don't expect physical infiltration. Use that against them." The NIGMA ship's interior was a maze of crystalline walls and organic-looking technology that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Everything was designed for creatures twice the size of humans, which meant plenty of hiding spots and alternate routes. Private Kim, the team's demolitions expert, grinned as she studied the ship's atmospheric recycling system. "Sergeant, these air vents are big enough for us to crawl through. The NIGMA would never fit." "Perfect," Day replied. "Rig the environmental controls. Let's give these bugs a taste of winter." Within minutes, Kim had rerouted the ship's atmospheric systems, flooding entire sections with freezing gas while maintaining breathable air in the areas where Day's team operated. The NIGMA crew, evolved on a warm tropical world, found themselves sluggish and confused as temperatures plummeted. "How did they infiltrate our atmospheric controls?" demanded the NIGMA ship's commander, his psychic voice weak from the cold. "Those systems are protected by quantum encryption." Actually, Day's voice came through the ship's communication system as his team appeared from maintenance shafts throughout the bridge. "We just cut through the walls and rewired everything. Manually. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." The psychological impact of these revelations rippled through the NIGMA fleet. For thousands of years they had conquered species by following the same pattern: overwhelm with superior technology, dominate with psychic control, and integrate the survivors into their empire. Against humans, every step of this process was failing spectacularly. Fleet Admiral Kothak stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. Human ships were appearing and disappearing throughout the battle zone with impossible speed. His own vessels were being boarded and captured by assault teams that seemed to materialize out of thin air. Worst of all, his psychic specialists were reporting complete failure in their attempts to control human minds. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the human fleet. They appear to be preparing for a coordinated counterattack. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Na watched as her carefully laid plans began to unfold. 3 days of defensive fighting had given her people time to analyze NIGMA tactics, adapt their technology, and prepare for the moment when they would stop reacting and start acting. "All ships," she announced across the fleet communication network. "This is Admiral Na. For 3 days, we've shown the NIGMA that their weapons don't work on us. Now it's time to show them what human weapons can do to them. Execute Phase 3. Let's end this." The war had turned completely around in just 2 weeks. Admiral Key stood in the Tactical Command Center aboard humanity's newest flagship, watching holographic displays that showed NIGMA territories across 3 star systems. Red dots marked enemy positions that were disappearing one by one as human forces struck with surgical precision. "Admiral," reported Navigation Officer Chen, "our scouts have identified another supply convoy in the Kepler system. 12 cargo haulers, minimal escort." Kai studied the tactical data with the calm focus that had made her humanity's youngest fleet admiral. "Route Captain Ree's squadron to intercept. Standard harassment protocol: disable, don't destroy. We want their supplies and their crews intact." The beauty of human warfare, Kai had realized, wasn't in overwhelming force. It was in being unpredictable, enough that your enemy could never adapt to your tactics. Every NIGMA commander was trained to fight conventional battles against conventional enemies. Humans were anything but conventional. Captain Ree received her orders while her squadron hung, motionless in the shadow of an asteroid field. Her 5 destroyers looked nothing like the sleek warships they had once been. Human engineers had bolted mining equipment, industrial fabricators, and salvaged alien technology onto every available surface. The ships looked like flying junkyards, but they packed more firepower than anything in the NIGMA fleet. "All ships, this is Ree," she broadcast to her squadron. "We've got a supply convoy coming through in 30 minutes. Remember the drill. We're not pirates, we're liberators. Every NIGMA worker we free is one less slave in their empire." Lieutenant Han, commanding the destroyer, Guangzhou's Hammer, chuckled over the comm channel. "Copy that, Captain. My mining. Drones are ready to perform some unscheduled maintenance on their cargo holds." When the NIGMA convoy dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves surrounded by ships that seemed to appear from empty space. But instead of the devastating attack they expected, swarms of small drones emerged from the human vessels and began systematically cutting apart the convoy's cargo containers. "What are they doing?" demanded the convoy commander, watching in confusion as human drones carefully extracted supplies without damaging them. His answer came in the form of a transmission broadcast in perfect NIGMA language. "NIGMA Convoy. This is Captain Ree of the Human Liberation Fleet. Your cargo is being redistributed to colonies that need it more than your war machine. Your crews will be taken to safety and given the opportunity to start new lives free from Imperial control." The transmission continued with details that made the convoy commander's blood run cold. "We know about Supply Depot Theta 7 in the Rigel system. We know about your ammunition stockpiles on Kepler Prime. We know where your fleet commanders sleep at night. Surrender now, and you'll be treated fairly. Continue fighting, and you'll discover why humans don't make idle threats." Across NIGMA, space, similar scenes were playing out as human forces struck targets with impossible accuracy. But the most devastating attack wasn't happening on any battlefield. It was happening inside NIGMA mines. Commander Bo sat in a specially shielded chamber aboard a stealth ship, surrounded by captured NIGMA psychic amplifiers that his team had modified with human technology. Where the original devices were designed to impose order and control, the human versions broadcast pure chaos. "Ready for the next transmission?" asked Technician Lim, her hands dancing over alien controls that no NIGMA engineer would recognize. "Let's give them something really unsettling," Bo replied, putting on the neural interface headset. "I'm thinking human music from the 21st century, mixed with combat footage, and maybe some of my grandmother's kimchi recipes." The result was psychological warfare unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Across dozens of NIGMA worlds, military commanders suddenly found their minds flooded with chaotic human thoughts. Images of human cities mixed with the sound of electric guitars, memories of human holidays collided with tactical data about human weapons. The experience was so overwhelming that many NIGMA officers simply shut down their psychic communication networks entirely. "They're in our minds," screamed General Zekton from his command bunker on Proxima 7. "The humans are everywhere. How are they broadcasting directly into our neural networks?" The answer would have horrified him even more. Dr. Yu's research team had spent weeks studying captured NIGMA communication equipment, learning how their quantum encryption worked. But instead of trying to break the codes, they had done something typically human. They had simply bypassed the entire system. The beautiful thing about quantum encryption, Dr. Yu explained to her team, is that it's absolutely unbreakable, unless you're not trying to break it. Research assistant Kang looked up from his workstation, confused. "I don't understand, Doctor." "We're not decrypting their messages," Yu grinned. "We're intercepting their quantum transmission pathways and injecting our own data streams. It's like tapping into their telephone lines, except the telephone lines exist in 11 dimensions." The result was that human intelligence officers could monitor every NIGMA communication in real time. Fleet movements, supply schedules, strategic planning sessions. Everything the NIGMA thought was secure was actually being broadcast directly to human command centers. Engineer Anne watched from the bridge of her converted mining ship as it engaged. A NIGMA destroyer squadron. Her vessel, the Incheon Ironworks, had started life as an asteroid processing plant. Now it was the most feared ship in the human fleet. "Plasma cutters at full power," she announced to her crew. "Remember, these aren't military weapons. They're industrial tools. But industrial tools designed to cut through solid rockwork just fine on alien armor." The NIGMA destroyers opened fire with their quantum torpedoes, weapons that had obliterated countless enemy fleets. The torpedoes struck Anne's ship and did almost nothing. Human engineers had reinforced the mining vessel with salvaged NIGMA armor plating and their own improvised defensive systems. "Their weapons are designed to fight warships," Anne observed calmly as her ship's plasma cutters sliced through the lead, destroyer's hull like butter. "But we're not a warship. We're a flying construction site that happens to be very good at deconstructing other people's ships." Within 6 weeks, the NIGMA Empire's military had collapsed completely. Their supply lines were cut, their communications were compromised, and their commanders were too paranoid to coordinate effective resistance. Human forces appeared wherever they were least expected, using tactics that made no logical sense, but worked with terrifying effectiveness. Emperor Vexthul's final transmission was broadcast from his flagship as human ships surrounded it on all sides. His voice, once so confident and cruel, now trembled with desperation. "We yield. Humanity has proven superior. We surrender unconditionally." But the human fleet didn't respond. They had moved beyond simple military victory and were preparing for something the galaxy had never seen before. Captain G had seen many strange things during her 20 years of galactic survey work, but nothing had prepared her for this. She stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, staring at the view screen that showed a perfectly intact NIGMA city on the planet below. Streets lined with crystalline buildings, transport systems still running on schedule, automated factories humming with activity. Everything looked completely normal except for one terrifying detail. There wasn't a single living soul anywhere. "Run the scans again," she ordered her sensor operator. "There has to be something we're missing." Ensign Pack shook his head, double-checking his instruments. "Captain, I've run every scan we have. Thermal, electromagnetic, biological, quantum. The cities are fully functional, but there are 0 life signs. Not just NIGMA, no life at all." Above the bacterial level, this was the 47th world G's team had investigated, and they were all the same. Empty, but undamaged, as if an entire galactic empire had simply decided to vanish overnight. No signs of battle, no evidence of plague or natural disaster, no indication of forced evacuation. 300 billion beings had just disappeared. "Captain," called Communications Officer Moon from her station, "I'm picking up automated distress signals from the planet's spaceports. They're still broadcasting standard departure schedules, but the last actual ship launch was recorded 96 days ago." G felt a chill run down her spine. 96 days ago was exactly when the Galactic Council had lost all contact with NIGMA space. Not a gradual communication breakdown or the static of a war zone, One day there had been the normal chatter of an active empire, and the next day, complete silence. "Prep a landing team," G ordered. "We're going down to the capital city. I want answers, and I'm not leaving this system until I get them." The landing party found the NIGMA capital exactly as the sensors had indicated, perfectly preserved, but completely abandoned. Government buildings still displayed the Empire's insignia, shops were stocked with goods, and public transportation continued running on automatic schedules. Security cameras throughout the city showed the same pattern. Normal activity until exactly 96 days ago, then nothing. "Look at this," called out archaeologist Dr. Yoon from the central government complex. She had found the building's main security center, where massive screens displayed feeds from across the NIGMA Empire. Every single world shows the same timeline. Normal activity, then sudden evacuation all on the same day. But it was the discovery in the Empire's central archives that provided the first real clue. Technician Song had managed to access the NIGMA's final governmental records, and what she found challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about the human NIGMA war. "Captain, you need to see this," Song called urgently. "These aren't military records, they're immigration documents, millions of them, all dated within the last 3 months of NIGMA occupation." The documents told an incredible story. After their military defeat, human forces hadn't occupied NIGMA worlds or imposed harsh surrender terms. Instead, they had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had offered every NIGMA citizen a choice. Dr. Yoon scrolled through digital records that showed massive human engineering projects throughout NIGMA space. Not weapons or fortifications, but transportation infrastructure, habitat construction, and resource allocation systems. "They were building something," she whispered. "The humans were building the largest relocation effort in galactic history." When Captain G filed her report with the Galactic Council 3 weeks later, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Representatives from dozens of species demanded explanations, investigations, and answers about how an entire empire could simply vanish without a trace. That's when Ambassador Jin requested permission to address the full council. Jin walked to the center of the Great Chamber with the same calm confidence he had shown months earlier when delivering humanity's warning to the NIGMA Empire. But now, instead of representing a species under threat, he spoke for the newest and most mysterious power in the galaxy. "Honored representatives," Jin began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems, "the NIGMA Empire has not been destroyed. They have been relocated to the Andromeda Galaxy, where they are free to build whatever society they choose." The silence that followed was deafening. Council member Zarkon of the Hegemony was the first to find his voice. "That's impossible. You're talking about moving 300 billion beings across intergalactic space. The energy requirements alone would bankrupt a dozen star systems." Jin smiled, the same calm smile that had infuriated Emperor Vexthul. "We didn't move them. By force, Counselor. We offered them something their empire never could. Genuine choice about their future." Representative Thys of the Aquatic Federation leaned forward, her translator device crackling with disbelief. "How does one convince an entire empire to voluntarily relocate to another galaxy?" "The same way you convince anyone to make a major life change," Jin replied. "You show them that their current situation isn't working, and you offer them something better." Jin activated a holographic display that showed the final months of the NIGMA conflict. Instead of the brutal occupation everyone expected, the images showed human engineers working alongside NIGMA civilians to construct massive transportation networks. Human doctors providing medical care to NIGMA families. Human teachers offering educational opportunities that had been restricted under the Empire's military hierarchy. Most NIGMA citizens had never known anything except life under imperial rule, Jin explained. They were born into a system that told them conquest was their only option for survival. When we showed them that cooperation could provide better lives for their children than warfare ever could, the choice became obvious. Councillor Vexrom of the Silicon Collective spoke with mechanical precision. "You defeated them through superior logistics rather than superior firepower." "We defeated them through superior imagination," Jin corrected. "Every other species in galactic history has responded to aggression with either submission or retaliation. Humans chose a third option, transformation. The implications were staggering. Not only had humanity defeated one of the galaxy's major military powers, but they had done so while actually improving the lives of their enemies. The NIGMA, freed from their empire's endless cycle of conquest and expansion, had chosen to start over in a galaxy where they could build something new. "Where does this leave the rest of us?" asked Representative Clar of the warrior clans, his voice tinged with something that might have been respect. Jin's answer would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. "Wherever you want it to. Humans don't believe in forced change, but we're always willing to help species that want to become something better than they were." The vote to offer humanity a permanent leadership position in the Galactic Council was unanimous. After all, any species capable of turning their deadliest enemies into grateful allies was exactly what a troubled galaxy needed.